friends, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock on a Monday, which means it's time for a 5x5. Now, this is where I take 5 subjects related to magic. I spend 5 minutes talking about each subject. There is a countdown timer at the bottom of the screen. The countdown reaches 0. When it does, we move on to the next topic. It's quick, it's snappy. You never know what you're going to get. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you at the start of this video another 2 performance videos. Well, I'm actually going to share 1 performance video, and then in the second section, I'm going to break it down. And I'm actually going to break down one of the performances of me performing the quantum deck. So I'm actually going to take the quantum deck, show you a full live performance of the quantum deck, and then I'm going to break that down and I'm going to explain to you what I do, why I do it, and hopefully this will help both in terms of kind of understanding my way of performing, but also it might answer people's questions about the quantum deck. So that's going to be there, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on as well in this week's 5x5. This is a good one. So without further ado, let's get into this week's 5x5. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you the truth. This pack of cards right here is a special deck. You can tell it's a special deck because there's no ink on the cards. Blank on the front, blank on the deck, back. I'm going to show you these cards in a minute.
The whole way through?
No, there is 1 card and 1 card only in there that's printed. I'm not going to tell you what it is, I'm not going to tell you where it is, but there's 1 card that's printed. This deck is a normal pack of cards. It's the sort of cards that you would play Snap or Blackjack or something with. It's actually called a tally-ho deck. Now, are you any good at shuffling? Then shuffle it with Funny for everyone.
No.
Give them a really good mix-up. Oh no, I can tell you're going to be good. You're already holding me in the right position.
I've also had like 5 drinks, so...
But that's amazing. To be honest, the more
more
you drink, the better it looks. Oh, you're really going for it now. No, I'm impressed.
I'm actually filming for you being framed, so...
This is great. Actually, that was very good. Have you ever tried that before?
No!
That's a spontaneous thing.
No, I can't do this though, because I can't get them to part. Look.
Yeah, well, no, don't
that
be embarrassed.
okay?
I think she's doing amazing. That was
You
great.
want to have a go?
Oh, do you want to shuffle as well?
She's good at shuffling.
Let's have a shuffle
She's
party.
really good at... She shuffles our Uno cards.
Oh! Steph, can you do me a favour? When you finish shuffling them, can you put them back in the original order, please? Make it so much easier. Thank you. Oh, you have as well! Wow, that's it. You need to go and do the show, and I'll sit in the audience with Romy and watch. Here's what we're going to do. With the deck that you both have shuffled, Romy, you're going to cut the cards somewhere. Now, you can cut shallow, you can cut in the middle, you can cut deep, you can cut anywhere you want to. Cut somewhere and put them on the table. It's up to you where.
You're going to know what I'm going to do because you're mind controlling.
Yes, I am Darren Brown on speed. Right, there. Put them there. I'm going to mark that cut. We're going to get back to that in a minute. Okay, Romy? Now, do you know, pop quiz, do you know how many cards there are on a pack of cards? 52.
Yes.
Now,
like the weeks of the year.
Exactly. Well, a deck of cards is a lot like a calendar. There's 52 cards, there's 52 weeks in the year. There's red cards and black cards, just like there's day and night. There's 4 suits, so there's 4 seasons. There's 13 cards in each suit, and there's 13 lunar cycles. If there's 12 court cards, there's 12 months. If you add up every single spot on the deck of cards, counting the Joker, it equals 365, which is the exact same amount of days in a year.
I was onto something.
See, it's not just entertainment, it's educational.
It is.
There you go. But with this deck of cards, there's 52 cards. And I said to you earlier on that there's 1 card in there that's printed. Now, when I snap my fingers, I'll tell you what's in the middle, that's all I'm telling you. When I snap my fingers, you're going to name a position from 1 to 52. Okay? Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Name it right now.
47.
47. Now that's a big number.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm going to deal down to that number, and that could take a very long time. If you want me to deal down to that number, I will do, but we could be here for ages.
So you want me to change?
No, Rummy. I want you to do whatever you want to do. If you want to, what did you say, 47?
Yeah, it feels right.
It feels right. Does it feel good?
It does. It feels good in my body.
If something's good for your body, well, who am I to disagree? Flying lines, you definitely want 48.
47.
47. I was testing you. You passed the test, well done. Okay, so 47, right, okay. And these cards have been here the whole time, right?
Yeah.
From the very, very beginning, they've been there. Yes?
Yes.
And also, you cut to a card earlier on, you remember?
Yeah.
We're going to look at the card that you cut to. Let's turn it over and have a look together.
Right.
The Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
And if you cut 1 card more, it would have been the 6. If you cut another card, you could have cut anywhere. And anyway, you shuffled beforehand. So we got the Queen of Hearts, and you said what number again?
47.
Okay. Let's try this. I'm going to deal through the cards. Each card I'm going to turn over so you can see that they're blank on both sides. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Isn't this exciting? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. My biggest skill is to talk absolute bollocks trying to make this interesting till I get to 47, right?
47.
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm boring myself at this point. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47. Every other card is blank. You can check those out, Steph. There is one card, and one card only that's printed in the 47th position. And that's your Queen of Hearts.
That's
Is there any
still
other
in
cards in there?
No.
It's blank, right?
This is still in there. I thought he might have stolen that.
They're all blank.
They're all blank.
Both sides, right?
I thought he stole this
Oh yeah,
one and put it
on
in.
the other side though. Is anything?
Yeah, they're all blank.
Oh.
I thought you stole this one and put it in, but it's still
No, it's a different
there.
back design.
Oh.
And there's no.
Are you gonna can you teach me that one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, they are.
It's just magic. It just works.
I don't know. What?
Me neither. If you figure it out, can you let me know? It's so weird.
Just hop.
Okay, so the first thing I want you to notice with this routine is I set the premise. I talk about how this is a special deck of cards. Now, in all honesty, I'm performing this as a one-off piece, and normally I introduce the blank deck of cards at the beginning of my set if I'm going to do it this way. But I like to kind of address the elephant in the room. It's obviously a blank deck. It's obviously not a normal deck. So I actually say this is what a deck looks like before it's printed. Now, when I bring the regular deck into play, you can see the girl on the left is really looking closely at the deck. And so I decide I want her to shuffle them. And you notice that I palm the top card off there. I've got the force card in place on top of the deck. I hand her the deck to be shuffled. That wasn't part of the plan. But the reason I did that is because I could see, she was asking questions about the quantum deck. She was then, really looking carefully at the cards that I was holding. And I thought, well, the way to deal with this is to give her the deck to shuffle. And sometimes we have to make those calls. Sometimes when you're performing real world situations, you might have to deviate off script or off what you're planning to do in order to address something that could potentially be an issue. Now, the other thing is I want you to notice that they take quite a while shuffling cards. And that can be dead time. I've seen a lot of magicians that just stand there waiting for the cards to be shuffled, and it kills the crowd. It really does. So you notice I'm just bantering. Really, I'm just chatting to them. I'm making a few silly jokes and complimenting her on her shuffle. It just stuff to keep the conversation moving. Now we're going to go into the force now, which is obviously a cross-cut force. I'm sure everybody knows this. But don't underestimate the cross-cut force. I do think that the cross-cut force is one of the best forces of all time. And I speak to magicians who say, I never do it, it's too simple. Well, in this sort of situation, it's brilliant because you have all the time misdirection in the world. We're not going to get back to that until probably about 2 or 3 minutes in. The other thing I want you to notice is I'm deviating off script again. She talks about, isn't it interesting that there's like 52 cards in 52 weeks or something? And I go into talking to her about how a deck of cards is like a calendar. Again, that's not part of the script, but she mentioned it and I just went into that, and you can see that she kind of found it interesting. And that's the point. When you're performing in a real world situation, be prepared to go off at a tangent. Remember, it's entertainment first and foremost. Yes, it's important that the magic's there. As long as you've got the final destination, it's the journey doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You can go off in lots of different directions. And that's what's really important. So now I'm getting her to name a number, and she names 47, which is obviously out of range because it's a very high number. And the first thing that I do is I'm going to try and verbally shift her into a lower number. So I'm going to say, hey, that's going to take a long time to deal. I haven't got all night. And she makes the statement. She says, oh, so you want me to change my mind? And I say, no, I want you to do whatever you want to do, because I know I can very, very easily shift it into whatever position I want it to go into with one little move. Now, if you've seen the Quantum Deck project, you'll know there's lots of different ways to actually achieve this, and the range has now changed, so it's anything from 6 to 47. So to be honest, with the new method, I wouldn't even need to do this. But you notice I'm going to do a move there, and I've already done it. I've shifted it while I'm chatting to them, while I'm talking to them. And you notice I miscall her number. So I say the number is 48. They both look up at me, and they go, no, it's 47. I was testing, that's correct. I do that quite a lot. I'll miscall some information that they've given me, purely because that will get them to look at me, and it's a nice little misdirection moment that allows me to do any move that I want to do. You should try that. You should try that. Just miscall the information, make it realistic. So she said 47. I said, so the number's 48, right? Now, obviously, I've already shifted the cards into position absolutely ages ago, so now I can be very clean. The one thing I'd like to point out about this is the dealing procedure. 47 cards is a long time. If you're just there going 1, 2, 3, it can get a little bit boring. So when you're dealing this many cards, I like to stop partway through, and I like to just make it funny, make it entertaining. Oh, isn't this interesting? Oh, the tension builds, just kind of a sarcastic thing. That fits with my character. You really have to go with what fits with your character. But if you watch the girls while I'm dealing, you can see that they're really laser focused on the deck, which is great, because now I don't have to do anything. I can just pick up the deck and I can deal directly to position. Notice I slow down when I get to the number, and notice they see that card come into play before I even get to the number. I immediately hand the deck out to Steph, who checks it out. Now, in all honesty, a lot of the time, when I give the deck to somebody, they will just literally put it on the table. But notice what Steph's doing. In this case, she's just spreading through, which is all laymen do. They just spread through one side, they spread through the other side, and when they do, they don't see anything. They're just spreading through the deck. What is there for them to find? There's nothing for them to find. I've told them that it's a blank deck of cards. It is a blank deck of cards. They're looking for more cards like that in the deck, and they're not going to find anything. They're just blank cards. I find it very interesting that the girl on the left said, "Oh, I thought you snuck it in there," which is why I always use a different back design on the card that's in the Quantum deck, just in case somebody does think that, although I think she's the only person that's actually said it. In this situation, me and Lloyd had to get her to examine the deck for a very long time, because we wanted people to see that the deck can be examined. And a lot of the time, when you're performing the Quantum deck, they just don't bother examining it, really. They just look at it, give it a cursory glance, and then put it down. Or if you put it on the table, they won't even pick it up, because it's not important to them. So I think the takeaways on this video is the importance to keep the conversation flowing, the importance of making sure that when you're doing sort of procedure, like long drawn out dealing procedure, you try to make it as interesting as possible for the spectator. All of that stuff is very, very important when you're performing any routine, but especially something where there's a lot of dealing taking place.
Okay, so one thing that I wanted to talk about on the channel today is the torn and restored cigarette paper. Now, I don't see many people doing the torn and restored cigarette paper, and to be clear, I don't smoke, and I've never smoked in my entire life, but I've done this a lot. Like, I've done this in close-up gigs, I've done this in parlor shows, and even though it's like only a small piece of paper, it plays to a really big crowd. And the torn and restored cigarette paper is great because you can get into it at a moment's notice, and also this is a common object. Everybody knows what rolling papers for cigarettes look like. Even if you don't smoke, you've probably got a friend who does, but you know what they are, you know what these are. So they're a common object, and they take up no pocket space. It's literally just this, and because of its very nature, when you take one out, it automatically gives you the other one. So you reset immediately to do it again and again and again. And I tend to find that when I do this, and I give these little pieces of paper out after you've done the torn and restored cigarette paper, they kind of just look at it and they're confused, and it just doesn't make any sense. Somebody asked me on the channel recently, what tricks would you use as your everyday carry that wouldn't necessarily fit inside a wallet or on a keychain or, on your phone as an app? And I was like, take this. Even if you don't smoke, you can justify these very easily. And you can say, hey, do you know what these are? The rolling papers. Yeah, now I don't smoke, but I want to show you an illusion. And you're just straight into it straight away. And because it's a common object that everybody knows, it looks really visual. But this is an example of a trick that has been around since year dot, and yet most people dismiss it for various different reasons. Maybe it's because they don't smoke, and maybe it's because it's too small. Maybe it's just it's not the newest and shiniest thing that's just come out. But you know what? If this had never been done before, if nobody had ever heard of the torn and restored cigarette paper before, and this came out as a download with a slow motion trailer of somebody ripping up the paper and then putting it back together, this would sell an absolute bucket load. So my question to you is, if you're not doing this, why not? Because it's not even that difficult. And if you don't know what this is, you're missing a trick. I'm going to do a full performance of this routine right now, so you can see exactly why this is such an awesome trick to do close up. So I've got Jack behind the camera. You're going to help me with this, Jack. Is that okay?
That I smoked.
Well, I don't smoke, but I got these from the corner shop. They're actually Swan sort of Rizzler rolling things. You know, like when you roll your own cigarettes, you use these. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, if you smoked, I could borrow yours. Apparently, I can't get them out. I don't smoke. That's the problem. There we go. So they come out like this. Now I'm going to show you a trick with it. Okay. And I want to watch, because this is less of a trick and it's more of an illusion. What you see right now is not real. It's going to look real, but it's not. In fact, let me ask you a question. Does that look real?
Yeah.
Does it look like I just took that Rizzler paper and ripped it into two?
Exactly what you did.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, because it's only an illusion. It's not real. But I mean, it looks real, right? It does look real. Let me do it again, because this is something this is something that I've been practicing, Jack. I've been practicing this whole illusion of actually ripping up paper, but it's not really ripped up. How does that look?
Very ripped up.
Does it look really ripped up?
Yeah.
Good, because this is not easy. Let me try it one more time. I'll do it down the middle. This should look like I go into lots and lots of tiny pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Does it?
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Now, we're going to squidge it together, and I want you to watch very carefully, and don't blink, not even for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
Because this is going to knock your... Are you wearing socks?
Yes.
Not for much longer, trust me. So watch. I'm going to try and squeeze it up into the tiniest little ball, like that. You see that, yeah?
Yeah.
Now watch. If this really is an illusion, and I can really break this illusion, it would look like that. You see, what would happen then is I could take these little tiny pieces of paper and very carefully open them up. And as I do open them up,
No.
you can see that right there, this has now restored into one sheet
What the fuck?
of paper. And Jack, you can have that. There you go. You can grab that. That is for you to examine. That's the torn and restored cigarette paper. Now, in the previous section, I shared with you a performance of the torn and restored cigarette paper. And I told you why it's awesome and why everyone should do it. And it absolutely is awesome, and everyone should do it. But another question I get on the channel all the time is about creativity. And it's not so much about creating tricks. It's more about creating presentations, and it's about creating storylines to go with your trick. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we've all seen that really boring magician that goes out and performs and just doesn't say anything. It's like, oh, pick a card, and it just kind of looks very not magical. I mean, there's some people that fits their style. Like Dynamo made a career for himself by saying very little. But then there's other people that go out there, and you've seen them, and I've seen them, and they're a black hole of charisma, and they suck the charisma out of the room. And one of the things I think is really important is looking at presentations for each individual trick. One way that you can make a trick completely unique to you is by thinking about the presentation to that trick. And it's something that a lot of magicians don't do, because what tends to happen is they buy the trick and they tend to just buy it the way that it's performed on the download, which is why I prefer books, to be honest, because you don't get that in books. You don't get someone's performance that you just copy, but you do when it comes to a download, or it comes to a DVD, or it comes to some sort of project like that. I like to take a trick and I like to think of all the different ways that I can present it that makes sense to me. So when you just saw me perform this before, I talked about this being an illusion and it's not real. I love that presentation because it plays with the audience, because you're saying to them, look, I'm not really tearing it. It looks like I'm tearing it, but I'm not. And they will swear blind that you are indeed tearing it, even though you say to them, no, it's an illusion. I've been working on this. Does it look really good? But that's only one way that you can present this trick. And this is why I wanted to bring this up on this episode, because you've just seen me perform this. But let's think about it together. All the different ways you could perform this. Well, let's talk about Timeline by Patrick Cunn. If you don't know what Timeline is, it's an app that you can get on your phone that allows you to go back in time X amount of minutes. Well, how about doing a time travel presentation with this? How about doing a time travel presentation where you use Timeline? So you say, hey, I'm gonna ball this. You might take a piece of Rizzler paper. You might take a piece of cigarette paper and roll it up into a ball openly at the beginning, and say, I want you to remember this moment in time, because I'm going to go back to that moment of time in a few minutes. You then open it up and you go into the routine where you're tearing it. And then you say, well, it really is torn. I've got it here. What we're going to do is going to go back in time. Now, how many minutes back in time do you want to do? You do Timeline. It goes back in time that many minutes. Everyone checks their phones. It has gone back in time. And then when you open up the tissue paper again, now to prove that you've gone back in time, the tissue paper has restored itself. Well, now you have a completely different trick using the same prop. Because to be clear, changing the presentation really does change the whole concept behind the trick. Now it's less of an illusion and it's more of a time travel presentation. Let's think of one more way that you can actually do this. So, for example, what you might want to do is have a piece of paper, have one of these that's already torn up. Okay, so take a Rizzler paper, tear it up, roll it up into a little ball, and palm it. And then you could say, for example, you know what I'm going to do before I start? I'm going to take this this paper, roll it up into a ball, so it's rolled up into a ball. Can you do me a favour? Can you hold on to that for me? Hold your hand out, pinch it between your thumb and your forefinger, and you give them this, and they think they're holding on to that rolled up ball, but they're actually holding on to the torn pieces. And you've got the rolled up ball over here. So now when you take a second piece out, now you can do the torn and restored cigarette paper, and it restores. And you can say, well, you're probably wondering how this works. Well, it's because these tissue paper, these cigarette papers, because they're in here together, they have a symbiotic relationship with each other. What happens to one, the opposite happens to another one. A little bit like my symbiotic of my project Visible. So then you say, well, if this is now restored, you had one that was perfectly okay. Open it up. And when they open it up, it's fallen into bits. And there's another example of doing exactly the same trick. You've not really added anything, but now it's become some sort of weird transposition, but you're not making the papers change places. You're making the condition of the papers change places. So ultimately, this little segment is just to say to you, when you get a magic trick or you learn a magic trick, don't just stop at learning the trick in the presentation. Instead, sit down when you've got the trick and you've got the presentation and think about all the different ways that you could actually do that trick. Think about all the different ways that you can perform it. Think of all the different presentational options. Write them down on a piece of paper and see if you can come up with a presentation and practice it with each individual presentation. Because then when you go to a gig, you could take the same prop and do it on a different table every single time. But each time you do it, it feels very different. And if you're at a gig where everybody knows each other and they're talking afterwards, they'll be describing the trick completely differently, because from the spectator's point of view, it is a completely different trick. Just something to think about. So I want to share with you a sneak peek of a Talk Magic interview that's coming up this Saturday, and that is the legend Roddy McGhie. Now, if you don't know who Roddy is, what rock have you been living under? I think he's one of the most creative magicians on the planet. He works alongside Penguin Magic, and he's just awesome. I've spoken about Roddy many times on this channel, and I'm super excited that I finally got an interview with him. So I sit down and I chat with Roddy McGhie. It's an incredible interview, and I'm sharing with you right here a bit of a sneak peek. It's going to give you an idea of what Roddy is going to be talking about when you see the full interview this Saturday. So here it is. This is your sneak peek, but don't forget the full interview is coming this Saturday on Magic TV. Happens because all of your tricks have been so well received and they're so unique. Do you ever worry about, oh, what happens if the next one's not at that level? What happens if, you know, I'm never going to reach the levels of Little Door or whatever again? And so doubting yourself? Is that a thing, or is that?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I mean, like Little Door's been my most successful thing. It was Flux, and then Little Door's. So everything since then, I'm still on my difficult second album. I've not managed to surpass it. No matter what I put out, someone usually on the cafe will say, it's good, but it's no Little Door. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, damn you, damn you, Little Door. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern. As thankfully, I'm at a stage now with Penguin where I've just flooded them with too much stuff that they're like, fine, that's enough. Now you can just go on camera and show off now and do tricks to people and do stuff. So the burden is not on me to create now. It's a weird thing, right? When Sean gave me the opportunity to like leave my really stressful job, and it was weird. I mean, I'd done social care and healthcare work for decades, and it wasn't until I remember the week that I left the job, I felt it was the first time I breathed out in like 20 years. I was like, God, I thought I hadn't realised how stressful the work was that I was doing, because you just do it. You do your job and it's what you do. And I thought, this is what I've always done and I'm good at it. But as soon as the burden was off, I was like, what the hell was that? Oh.
Sound like a football match starting.
Yeah, it's my daughter's iPad. God, right, I should have muted that. So, yeah, I mean, God, I don't know what that is. How do I switch this off? Slap your old man. How do you switch it off? So yeah, leaving the job was great, and I thought, right, now I'm just going to be bursting with ideas, but that wasn't the case, not at all. For a long time, I was like, oh my God. But even though that first year I could sit back, I'd given the 6 that they asked for. But I'm thinking now this is what I'm supposed to be doing, is creating, so the pressure was on, right? And I couldn't do it. And what I realised when I got into it for a while was it was the stress that was helping me create magic, right? So when I was at work and I was having a hard time, I was thinking about magic tricks to distract myself, right? To kind of deal with, or times when I was on night shifts to relieve boredom, I'd think about magic and stuff like that. But it was an escape. Like inventing magic tricks was an escape, really, from what I was in. And then I was in a position where I was like, sipping out a coconut and all that, on a sun lounge. I'm going, this is the life. And there was no impetus for me to create, really, because I was like, right, well, I'm free. I've given them this for a year. It's hard to describe, but the stress wasn't there, and I wasn't really coming up with stuff. I was creating a different kind of stress because I was like, oh no, I need to come up with magic. So you need to give yourself that sort of space to say, right, now I'm going to create, and like if it comes, it comes, right? I know, like Ben was talking about this pressure that you put on yourself, like Ben Williams, that you go, oh, I need to bang it out, and people are expecting this of me. But if you just let it come. It's like, I know you're probably going to ask me at some point how I come up with ideas, and I'd love to be able to tell you. We'll get to that. It's who knows, right? It just comes to you. Sometimes you just get a wee, and you go, oh, but you've got to give yourself that space where that's going to happen, right? But you've got to feed things into that and make it happen as well. But yeah, definitely the pressure to create is there. But thankfully, now. So Noel Qualter is is a good friend of mine, and Noel is a never-ending font of inspiration for me. He's definitely like this is a whole magic bromance. He is definitely my muse, and my wife's always rolling her eyes, talking about this. But Noel is fantastic, and he will just say something, just a off-the-cuff thing, like a phrase. Think about this. What if blah blah blah. And it'll be something really obscure, and it just, for me, it's a spark, and that's what I need. Sometimes I need the spark, and I will create something that is completely different from what he proposed at the start. But you need that, so that's great. When collaborating is you need the little spark, and where you find that spark's up to you. So on that basis, I always kind of think, as long as I'm friends with Noel, I'll be okay. I'll be able to come up with ideas, because he feels the fire all the time. So yeah.
Okay, guys, that's another 5x5 in the bag. Thank you very much for joining me once again right here on Magic TV. Don't forget, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you want to see more live performance videos? You let me know. This channel is all about you guys. If you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, get all your friends to subscribe to the channel, and I will be back again tomorrow with 3 videos. We're going to have a shorts at 2 o'clock, at 6 o'clock live, and at 9 o'clock we are going to be here with a Talk Magic interview. A lot going on this week on Magic TV. Thanks very much for joining me. I will see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic.